The rain hammered against the windows of Miller's garage like angry fists, but inside, 32 leather-clad bikers sat in absolute silence. Robert Ironheart Morrison, president of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, stared at two small figures standing in the doorway, a boy and a girl no older than 10 and 8, soaking wet, trembling but with eyes that burned with desperate courage. "We need parents," the boy whispered. "Just for one day." The room held its breath. These weren't the kind of visitors they usually got. Lucas and Sofia Miller stood there in oversized raincoats, backpacks nearly as big as their thin frames, purple bruises peeking out from under the girl's sleeve. They'd walked 3 miles in the storm to get here, past the no trespassing signs, past the iron gates, past every warning that should have turned children away. But desperation makes the bravest soldiers. "Who sent you here, kids?" Robert's voice was gravel and smoke, but something in it softened when he saw Sofia's hand gripping her brother's so tightly her knuckles were white. "Nobody," Lucas answered, his voice cracking. "We found you ourselves. On the internet. It said you help people sometimes, that you protect people." Ben Diesel Carter, the club's sergeant-at-arms, a mountain of a man with scars that told stories darker than most people could imagine, knelt down to their level. "What kind of trouble are you in?" Sofia's bottom lip trembled. "The kind that leaves marks." The bikers exchanged glances. They all knew that kind of trouble. Most of them had lived it. Some had scars on their souls deeper than any knife could cut. The club had been built on men who understood what it meant to survive when the world turned its back on you. "There's a career day at our school," Lucas explained, pulling out a crumpled flyer from his backpack. "Friday. Parents come and talk about their jobs. Everyone's bringing their mom or dad." His voice dropped. "We don't have anyone. Our real dad died 2 years ago. Heart attack. Just fell down one day and never got up." "And your mom?" asked Diego, the club's road captain, whose own children had been his salvation from a life that almost destroyed him. "She works double shifts at the hospital," Sofia said quietly. "She's a nurse. She's trying so hard to keep us fed and safe. But she married someone new 6 months ago. Rick, he seemed nice at first." The silence in the room turned cold. Every biker there knew where this story was going. They'd all seen it before. Some had lived it as children themselves. "Rick drinks," Lucas continued, his voice barely audible. "When Mom's at work, he gets angry. Says we're burdens. Says we remind him that we're not really his kids. The boy's voice broke. "He hits us," Sofia finished for her brother. "Not where people can see. He's smart about it. Our bellies, our backs, our legs. He says if we tell anyone, he'll make Mom choose between him and us. And Mom's so tired. She works so hard. We don't want to break her heart." Robert felt something crack inside his chest. That old armor he'd built around his heart after years of seeing the worst in humanity. These kids had walked through a storm to find strangers, to ask for help from men that society had labeled as dangerous, as outcasts, as criminals. But children see truth that adults forget. They see who shows up when it matters. "Why us?" Robert asked gently. "Why not teachers, police, social workers?" Lucas looked up with eyes older than his years. "Because Rick's family are lawyers, rich ones. His uncle's a judge. Last time Sofia had bruises, our school counselor called child services. By the time the social worker came, Rick had a doctor's note saying Sofia fell off her bike. The case was closed in 2 days. Nobody believes kids like us," Sofia added. "Not when the adults have money and power and nice suits, but career day." She pulled out her phone, showing them pictures from last year's event. "Everyone respects parents who show up, even the bullies at school. There's this kid, Brandon, his dad's some big executive. Brandon pushes us around, calls us orphans, says nobody cares about us. But if someone came for us, just once, maybe they'd leave us alone. Maybe we'd have one day where we felt like we mattered." The rain continued its assault on the windows. Thunder rolled across the sky. But inside that garage, something was shifting. 32 men who'd spent their lives on the edges of society, who'd been judged, dismissed, and feared. They saw themselves in these children's eyes. "It's urgent," Lucas pressed on, reading the room. "Rick and his family, they're powerful. Nobody wants to confront them. But you." He gestured around the room at the leather vests covered in patches, the scars, the calloused hands, the faces that had seen battle and survived. "Everyone respects you. Everyone's a little bit afraid. We thought if you came, just for one day, maybe Rick would back off. Maybe we'd finally have someone on our side." That sentence hit Robert like a punch to the gut. Every single biker in that room had been Lucas and Sofia once upon a time. Scared, alone, desperate for someone to see them, to fight for them, to stand between them and the monsters that wore human faces. If you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever needed someone to show up when the world turned away, then you understand why what happened next mattered. Here at Road Motorcycle Diaries, we believe every child deserves a warrior in their corner. Stay with us. This story is just beginning. Robert stood up, his decision made. He looked at his brothers, men who'd ridden through hell and back together. "Friday, you said?" The children nodded, hope dawning like sunrise in their eyes. "What time?" 9:30 a.m., room 204. Robert turned to his club. "Who's got Friday morning free?" Every single hand went up. 32 hands, 32 warriors who'd just found their next mission. "All right then." Robert looked down at Lucas and Sofia, and for the first time in what must have been years, they smiled. "We'll be there, all of us." Lucas and Sofia's eyes went wide with disbelief. "Really? You mean it? But..." Robert's expression turned serious. "This thing with your stepdad, does your mum know how bad it is?" The smiles faded. "She's so tired," Sofia whispered. "She works herself to exhaustion trying to support us since Dad died. We don't want to make things harder for her. Protecting your mom by taking beatings isn't noble," Robert said quietly. "It's just more pain all around. She deserves to know. You all deserve better." "We don't know what to do," Lucas admitted, tears finally breaking through. Robert crouched down to their level, looking both children in the eyes. "You just did it. You asked for help. That takes more courage than most adults ever find." He placed a hand on each of their shoulders. "We're going to fix this. Career Day is just the beginning. But I need you to trust us. Can you do that?" Two small heads nodded. "Good. Now we're going to get you home dry and safe, and we're going to have a conversation with your mum, with you present, about what's really going on. No more secrets. No more hiding bruises, agreed?" "What if Rick finds out we came here?" Sofia's voice trembled. "Let him," Ben growled. "In fact, I'm counting on it." As Lucas and Sofia left that night, after hot chocolate, dry clothes borrowed from Diego's kids, and a ride home in a pickup truck rather than on bikes that would draw attention, their backpacks seemed lighter. The club erupted in low conversations. They had 4 days to plan, and they were going to make damn sure those two kids felt what it meant to have 32 fathers show up when it mattered most. Robert watched from the garage window as the taillights disappeared into the rain. The children's steps had been different leaving than arriving. Steadier, stronger. They weren't just carrying weight anymore. They were carrying purpose. But what none of them knew yet was that Friday morning would change more than just two children's lives. It would challenge everything their school and their town believed about judging books by their covers, about who the real heroes are, and about what family truly means. The question was, when 32 Hells Angels rolled up to an elementary school, would the world be ready for the truth? Friday morning arrived under threatening grey clouds that mirrored the knot in Lucas and Sofia's stomachs. They woke at 5 a.m., too anxious to sleep, hearts pounding with a mixture of hope and terror. They'd replayed Robert's promise 1,000 times in their minds, afraid it was just words, because adults promise things and break them. Adults say they'll be there and disappear. But these weren't ordinary adults. The children dressed in their best clothes, the same ones they'd worn to their father's funeral 2 years ago. Dark pants, white shirts pressed with trembling hands, shoes polished until they could see their reflections. In the kitchen, their mother kissed their foreheads, her nurse's scrubs already wrinkled from a night shift that had just ended. "Big day today, right? Career Day." Her smile was exhausted but genuine. "I'm so sorry I can't be there. The hospital is short-staffed and I have to cover another shift." "It's okay, Mom," Lucas said, forcing brightness into his voice. "We figured something out." She studied their faces, really looked at them, and saw something she hadn't seen in months. Confidence, a light behind their eyes. "You two seem different today. Are you okay?" "We're better than okay, Mom," Sofia said, and meant it. What their mother didn't know was that at 3 a.m. that morning, Robert had sat with her in the hospital cafeteria during her break. He'd shown her the photos Lucas had taken of their bruises, the recordings Sofia had made on her phone when Rick's shouting turned violent, the fear in her children's eyes that she'd been too exhausted to see. She'd wept, she'd raged, and she'd made a decision. Rick had been told that morning he was no longer welcome in their home. He'd raged, threatened, But when 3 bikers showed up at 6 a.m. to help him pack, his courage evaporated. The locks would be changed by noon. His belongings would be on the lawn by sunset. But Lucas and Sofia didn't know any of this yet. They were about to walk into school believing they were still trapped, still powerless, which made what was about to happen even more powerful. At school, Brandon Mitchell waited by the lockers with his usual crew of followers. His father's Mercedes was already parked in the front row, gleaming silver, worth more than most families made in a year. "Well, well," Brandon sneered as Lucas and Sofia approached. "Look who showed up. Ready for your presentation, orphans? Oh wait, nobody's coming for you, right?" His friends laughed. It was a practiced cruelty, refined over months of tormenting children whose circumstances made them easy targets. "My dad's driving up in his Mercedes," Brandon continued loudly, making sure everyone heard. "Chief Financial Officer of Mitchell Industries. What's your dad driving?" "Oh right, a coffin." The crowd gasped. Even for Brandon, that was harsh. Lucas felt the familiar sting of tears but blinked them back. Sofia grabbed his hand, squeezing it 3 times. Their secret code. "I'm here. You're not alone. We're stronger together." "That's what I thought," Brandon said, pushing Lucas against the lockers. Not hard enough to leave marks that teachers would see, but enough to establish dominance. "Enjoy career day, losers. Try not to cry when everyone else's parents show up and yours don't." Lucas and Sofia walked to room 204, with heads down, counting steps, controlling their breathing the way the school counselor had taught them. The hallways filled with excited children and their parents. A surgeon in scrubs, a firefighter in uniform, a pilot with her captain's insignia gleaming. Brandon's father in his $1,000 suit, shaking hands like he was running for office. The children took their seats in the back corner, watching the clock. 9:15 a.m. Parents were arriving in streams now. 9:20 a.m. The room was almost full. 9:25 a.m. The teacher, Mrs. Henderson, began taking attendance of which parents had arrived. Lucas felt the familiar tightness in his chest, the one that came right before panic attacks. They weren't coming. Of course they weren't. Why would they? Who were he and Sofia to these men? Just 2 more kids with problems in a world full of problems. Sofia squeezed his hand 3 times. "I'm here. You're not alone. We're stronger together." 9:30 a.m. came and went. Mrs. Henderson started her welcome speech. Brandon smirked from the front row, where his father sat beside him like a king on a throne. Then at 9:33 a.m., it started. The rumble was distant at first, like thunder rolling across the plains, but it grew and grew, until the windows rattled, until conversations stopped mid-sentence, until every head in the room turned toward the sound. 32 motorcycles rolled into the school parking lot in perfect formation, a choreographed thunder that made the ground shake. Chrome gleamed under the cloudy sky. Engines roared in harmony. The Hells Angels had arrived. Lucas and Sofia's hearts nearly exploded in their chests. They came. They actually came. Robert led the formation, dismounting with military precision. One by one, 32 bikers cut their engines and stood, an army of leather and patches, scars and tattoos, men who looked like they'd ridden out of every parent's nightmare. The school security guard started forward, then stopped. Something in Robert's eyes said this wasn't a threat. This was a promise being kept. They walked through the halls, boots heavy on linoleum, presents filling every corner, children pressed against lockers, mouths open. Teachers emerged from classrooms. The principal rushed forward, then froze when she saw the determination in their faces. "We're here for career day," Robert said calmly. "Room 204, we were invited." The principal's mouth opened and closed like a fish. I'll need to verify." "Lucas and Sofia Miller," Robert said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Check your list. They're allowed to invite who they want, aren't they?" She checked, swallowed, nodded. The bikers continued their march. When they reached room 204, the door opened, and 32 men who were too large for this world tried to fit into a classroom designed for children. They squeezed into desks, stood along the walls, filled every available space. The room smelled of leather and motor oil and something else, something that felt like safety. Lucas and Sofia stood on shaking legs as Robert gestured for them to come forward. "Lucas and Sofia Miller," Robert announced to the room. "We're here for you." The whispers started immediately. Mrs. Henderson looked like she might faint. Brandon's father, despite his expensive suit and powerful position, visibly shrank in his chair. Because money and titles mean nothing when real strength walks into the room. "Good morning," Robert began, his voice calm but commanding. "We're the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. Lucas and Sofia asked us to come talk about what we do, so let's start with the obvious. Yes, we ride motorcycles, but that's not who we are." What happened next was not what anyone expected. This is what happens when you look past the surface, when you see people for who they truly are, rather than what they wear. If this story is moving you, hit that subscribe button for Road Motorcycle Diaries, because we're just getting to the good part. Real family isn't always found where you expect it. Ben stood up, his massive frame dwarfing the tiny desk. "I'm a mechanic and an engineer. I work on engines, suspensions, electrical systems. These bikes you saw outside? Each one is a machine that requires understanding of physics, metallurgy, computer systems. I teach kids in our community workshop how engines work, how to problem solve, how to build things with their hands." Diego followed. "I'm a veteran, served 2 tours overseas. When I came back, I had nowhere to go, no one who understood what I'd seen. This club saved my life. Now we run programs for other veterans, helping them transition, fighting isolation, preventing suicide. Last year alone, we helped 47 veterans find housing, jobs, and hope. One by one, they told their stories. The IT specialist who coded websites for non-profits, the carpenter who built wheelchair ramps for elderly neighbors, the former teacher who ran a literacy program. Then came the hard truths. Marcus Hawk Thompson stood up, his weathered face a map of hard-lived years. "I grew up in a house where love looked like fists. My father drank, and when he drank, he became a monster. By the time I was 13, I was following the same path, angry, violent, destroying everything I touched." The room was absolutely silent. Even Brandon had stopped smirking. "Then I met Robert," Marcus continued. "He gave me a choice. Keep destroying or start building. This club taught me that real strength isn't about who you can hurt. It's about who you can protect. It's about breaking cycles instead of repeating them. It's about showing up for people who can't show up for themselves." Mrs. Henderson was crying openly now. Several other parents were wiping their eyes. Robert stepped forward again. "Most people see our patches and make judgments. They see the leather and the bikes and assume we're dangerous. And maybe we are, but only to people who hurt the vulnerable. We ride thousands of miles each year, escorting abuse survivors to court, because walking into that courtroom alone is terrifying. We deliver toys to children's hospitals. We stand between bullies and their victims, because every single man in this room remembers what it felt like to be powerless. And we swore we'd never let another kid feel that way if we could help it." He turned to Lucas and Sofia. These two walked 3 miles in a storm to ask for help. They were scared, desperate, and brave beyond measure. They asked us to be their parents for one day. Robert's voice grew stronger. "But real family doesn't work on schedules. Real family doesn't have time limits. So here's the truth. Lucas and Sofia, you're stuck with us now, all of us. For as long as you need us, which is probably forever." The applause started slowly, then built until it shook the room. Parents stood, children cheered. Even Brandon was clapping, though confusion clouded his face. This didn't match the story he'd been told about who the bad guys were. After the presentations, as families mingled, Brandon's father approached Robert. Up close, his expensive suit couldn't hide the uncertainty in his eyes. "That was impressive," he said. Robert's gaze was steel. "Your son has been bullying Lucas and Sofia, making their lives hell. That ends today. Are we clear?" Mr. Mitchell's face flushed. "Brandon, he's just boys will be—" "Don't!" Robert's voice cut like a blade. "Don't minimize, don't excuse. Your son is learning from someone that it's okay to hurt people weaker than him. The question is, who's teaching him that?" The man had no answer, but Robert saw something flicker in his eyes. Recognition, maybe even shame. Outside, as the bikers prepared to leave, Robert squeezed Lucas and Sofia's shoulders. "Tomorrow, we teach you how to change oil. Sunday, we're working on a community project, building a playground. You're coming, both of you." The engines roared to life again, a symphony of power and promise. As the motorcycles pulled away, Sofia turned to Lucas. "Did that really just happen?" "I think we just got adopted," Lucas whispered, "by 32 guardian angels." But this story wasn't over, because that afternoon when Rick showed up drunk and furious, ready to punish them for embarrassing him, he found something unexpected. A house empty of his belongings, locks changed, and a restraining order with his name on it. And parked across the street, 3 motorcycles, 3 bikers, 3 men who'd promised to protect 2 children. Rick left without saying a word. Some battles are lost before they begin. The weekend that changed everything started with grease-stained hands and ended with something none of them expected. A bully learning that he wasn't so different from the children he'd tormented. Saturday morning found Lucas and Sofia at Miller's garage, surrounded by motorcycles in various states of repair. Robert handed them each a wrench, and for the next 3 hours, they learned the anatomy of engines, pistons and cylinders, spark plugs and carburetors. Their hands turned black with oil, but their smiles stretched wider than they had in years. "See this?" Ben pointed to a carburetor. "When it's clogged, the whole engine struggles. Can't breathe right, can't function. Same with people. When something's blocking your ability to take in what you need, everything else breaks down. You kids were clogged up with fear and secrets. Now we're clearing the lines." Sofia understood the metaphor. "So, asking for help was like cleaning the carburetor?" "Exactly," Ben grinned. "Smart kid." But while Lucas and Sofia were discovering that sanctuary exists in unexpected places across town, another child was drowning in silence. Brandon Mitchell sat in his enormous bedroom in his family's mansion, staring at the video that had gone viral over the weekend. Someone had filmed the Hells Angels arriving at school, and it had been shared thousands of times with captions like, "Real heroes don't always wear capes," and "This is what protecting kids looks like." His phone buzzed with messages from classmates. "Did you see this? Those kids you were bullying have a whole motorcycle club protecting them now. Maybe pick better targets next time, idiot." Brandon threw his phone across the room. He didn't understand the feeling crushing his chest. Shame mixed with something else. Loneliness. Because the truth was, his father's Mercedes and expensive suits were just as much a facade as the tough guy act Brandon put on every day. His mother had died 3 years ago. Cancer. His father had responded by working more, earning more, being present less. The big house felt like a museum. Beautiful, cold, empty. Brandon bullied others because at least when he was cruel, he felt powerful. At least he felt something. Monday morning arrived with the weight of consequences. Rick, Sofia, and Lucas's stepfather had spent the weekend getting drunk and watching that same viral video. He'd been humiliated. His attempt to control his family had been publicly dismantled by men who looked like they could dismantle him just as easily. At 6 p.m., he kicked open the door to the Miller house, fury and alcohol making him dangerous. "You think you're special now?" he slurred, advancing on Lucas. "You think some bikers are going to protect you forever? This is my house." Sofia stepped between them. "You're wrong. This isn't your house. It was never your house. You're not our father. You never will be." The slap came fast, but never landed. The door opened calmly, deliberately. Robert walked in, followed by Ben, Diego, and Marcus. The temperature in the room dropped. "The door was unlocked," Robert said evenly. "Mrs. Miller gave us a key. She knew something like this might happen." Rick froze, his raised hand still hanging in the air. "You can't. This is breaking and entering. I'll call the police." "Please do," Diego said, pulling out his phone. "Because we have documentation of everything. Photos of the bruises you left, medical records from the school nurse, voice recordings of your threats, text messages. We've been building a case for 4 days now, working with Mrs. Miller and a lawyer who specializes in domestic violence." Marcus stepped forward. "You have 2 options. Option 1, you leave right now permanently and we never see you again. You sign away any claim to this family and you disappear. Option 2, we call the police, press charges, and your lawyer uncle won't be able to help you because we've already documented everything with the district attorney's office. Your choice. You have 30 seconds. Rick looked at the faces surrounding him. Men who had survived worse than him, who had fought harder battles, who had nothing left to lose and everything to protect. He was gone in 20 minutes, his belongings hastily thrown into garbage bags, his threats evaporating into pathetic whimpers. When Mrs. Miller arrived home from her hospital shift at 8 p.m., she found her children eating pizza with 4 bikers at her kitchen table. She started crying, not from fear but from relief so profound it hurt. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do all this for children you barely know?" Robert looked at Lucas and Sofia. "Because they were brave enough to ask, and because every child deserves to feel safe in their own home. You're a good mother working yourself to exhaustion. You deserve support, not judgment. We're here for all of you." The weeks that followed transformed more than just the Miller household. The club became a second home for Lucas and Sofia. They learned mechanics, helped with charity events, discovered that family could be chosen rather than assigned. But they also noticed something else. Brandon had become quiet at school. The bullying had stopped, but so had everything else about him. He walked the halls like a ghost, shoulders hunched, eyes hollow. One afternoon, Sofia saw him sitting alone at lunch, staring at nothing. "Something's wrong with Brandon," she told Lucas. "He looks sad." "Good," Lucas said reflexively. "After what he did to us?" "No," Sofia shook her head. "Not good. He looks like we felt before." That observation changed everything. Lucas and Sofia mentioned it to Robert that weekend. "The kid who was bullying you?" Robert asked. "Why do you care?" "Because hurt people," Sofia said, repeating something Marcus had told her. "Maybe Brandon's hurt too." So they investigated, discreetly. What they found broke their hearts. Brandon's mother had died when he was 7. His father, consumed by grief and guilt, had buried himself in work. The mansion, the Mercedes, the expensive suits, they were armor against pain. Brandon was emotionally abandoned, acting out the only way he knew how, desperate for any kind of attention, even negative. Robert made a decision that surprised even his club members. He confronted Mr. Mitchell, not with threats this time, but with truth. "Your son is drowning," Robert told him in his corporate office, surrounded by evidence of success that meant nothing. "You're so busy trying to outrun your grief that you can't see he's inherited it. He's angry and alone, just like you. And unless something changes, he's going to become exactly what you're afraid of, a man who pushes everyone away because he never learned how to let anyone in." Mr. Mitchell's carefully constructed walls crumbled. "I don't know how to help him. Every time I look at him, I see her, his mother. It hurts too much." "Then let us help," Robert said. "Both of you, we run grief support groups. We have programs for kids who've lost parents, and we have men who understand what it means to be broken and find a way to rebuild." It took courage Mr. Mitchell didn't know he had, but he agreed. Brandon's apology to Lucas and Sofia was awkward, painful, real. "I was terrible to you. I don't have excuses. I'm sorry." "We forgive you," Sofia said simply. "And if you want it, we're going to the garage on Saturday. You could come, learn how to fix motorcycles, maybe fix some other stuff too." Brandon joined the program. Slowly he learned to process his grief instead of weaponizing it. He and Lucas became unlikely friends, two boys who'd lost fathers, learning together that strength wasn't about dominance, but about vulnerability, about asking for help, about showing up. Mr. Mitchell started attending the grief support group. He cut back his hours. He learned his son's favorite subjects in school, his fears, his dreams. The mansion became warmer. The Mercedes mattered less. Years passed like pages turning in a book. Lucas and Sofia grew up surrounded by leather and chrome, learning that real family shows up not just for the celebrations, but for the ordinary moments. Homework help, birthday parties, school plays, and quiet Sundays, fixing motorcycles. The club became their village, their safety net, their proof that the world contained more good than evil. Brandon transformed from bully to builder, volunteering at the community workshop, using his privilege to lift others up rather than push them down. His father became a different man, present, engaged, human. On graduation day, Lucas and Sofia stood on the stage as valedictorian and salutatorian. Behind them, arranged in the audience like a wall of protection, sat 32 bikers in their best clothes, leather vests polished, patches gleaming, pride radiating from every face. Lucas spoke first. "Family isn't always about blood. It's about who shows up when your world is falling apart, who stands between you and the monsters, who teaches you that being strong means protecting those who can't protect themselves." Sofia continued. "We learned that real heroes don't always look like heroes. Sometimes they wear leather instead of capes. Sometimes they ride motorcycles instead of white horses. Sometimes the people society tells you to fear are the ones who save your life." Their mother, now a nursing supervisor, wept in the front row. Beside her sat Robert, who'd walked Sofia down the aisle at the 8th grade father-daughter dance, who'd taught Lucas to drive, who'd been present for every milestone that mattered. After the ceremony, as graduates took pictures with their families, Brandon approached with his father. "Thank you," Mr. Mitchell said to Robert, "for not giving up on us, for showing me what it means to actually be a father." Brandon added, "You guys taught me that making mistakes doesn't define you. What you do after, that's what matters." I'm joining the community workshop full-time this summer, going to help teach kids how to fix things. Engines, relationships, lives. Robert smiled, that rare expression that transformed his weathered face. That's what we do. We fix things, we build things, we show up. As the sun set on that graduation day, Lucas and Sofia stood with their club family, watching families celebrate all around them. They thought back to that rainy night years ago, when two terrified children walked into a garage and found warriors. "Do you remember being scared?" Sofia asked. "Every day," Lucas replied, "until we weren't anymore. Because of them. Because we asked for help, because we were brave." Robert overheard and added, "And because you taught us something too. You reminded us why we do this, why we wear these patches. It's not about being tough or feared. It's about being the people we needed when we were your age. It's about breaking cycles, building family, showing up." So here's the question that matters. If a child asked you for help, would you show up? Would you look past appearances and see the person beneath? Would you be brave enough to stand between the vulnerable and their monsters? That's what Road Motorcycle Diaries is all about. Stories that remind us that heroes are everywhere, that family is more than blood, and that sometimes the people society judges most harshly are the ones with the biggest hearts. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment telling us, would you do the same? Have you ever been surprised by who showed up for you? Let's build a community of people who believe that everyone deserves someone in their corner. Like this video if you believe in second chances, in chosen family, in the power of showing up. Share it with someone who needs to remember that they're not alone. Because at the end of the day, we're all just looking for our tribe, our people, our motorcycle club of the soul. Those who see us, protect us, and remind us that we matter. Until the next story, remember, real strength is protecting those who can't protect themselves. Real family is who shows up when it matters. And real heroes, they're often the ones nobody expected. Ride on, friends. Ride on.